you drinking?
I got my iced coffee today.
Excellent.
Delicious iced coffee, I must say. But that's for another day because we're recording. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dual Screens podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Fontana. With me, as always, he's my right-hand man. He's Andy Asimakis. How are you, Andy?
We've done how many of these so far?
223.
Stephen? Is that an exact, precise number?
Yes.
Or is that just a guess?
223. That's a real number.
True facts.
That's a true fact.
Verifiable fact.
Verifiable.
Have we ever done, in all of those 200 interviews, a point-and-click game? I was searching the old brain, and I couldn't think of any. This might be a first.
I don't know.
Possibly.
But we're gonna learn today.
Son. Oh, we're gonna learn so much.
We're gonna learn today because joining us this week is Francisco González, the creator of Rosewater, a thrilling Western adventure set in an alternate 19th century world of Lamplight City. Francisco, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm absolutely honored to be your first point and click.
We're gonna have to go through the archives. We're gonna have to verify this, but I'm pretty sure this is correct.
Yeah, we've done like first-person games. Yeah, we've done bunch of RPGs.
Metroidvania is probably leading the pack.
Side-scrolly stuff. Yeah, more than likely.
You cover all of the games that I play, but not the type that I develop.
Well, this is excellent.
Right.
I feel right at home. I'm honored.
So you're on the right podcast, sir.
Excellent.
Yes. And what podcast is that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, it's the one you're listening to or watching. It's the Dual Screens podcast. This is the internet's #1 indie developer interview podcast starring people you've never heard of, probably. The show posts each and every Friday for your listening pleasure on your podcast service of choice, including our home, Podbean. And of course, we're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere, son. So go in there for your if you like podcasting your ear holes, that's where you go. But if you want it for your eye holes, it's very simple. You go to youtube.com/dualscreens.tv. It's very simple. You go there, you hit subscribe, you hit the thumbs up, and you listen to well over 200 interviews that we have up there for your favorite video games, including your newest favorite video game, Rosewater. Francisco, we've already kind of said that it's a point and click, but it's much more than that. It's much more than that. Give our listeners that beautiful elevator pitch.
Ooh, all right. So Rosewater, as you mentioned, is a thrilling Wild West point-and-click adventure set in the world of Lamplight City. What's Lamplight City? Well, it's the game I released before this one. Basically, Lamplight City is a detective game set in an alternate 19th century. You play as a detective who hears the voice of his dead partner. He's trying to let his partner move on. It's kind of based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe and Charles Dickens, and I created this whole alternate 19th century world of Vespuccia, which is the United States that never declared independence. So it's sort of this steampunky mishmash of like an East Coast city that's kind of New York, New Orleans, London, etc. So that game came out a couple of years ago, and I thought, what do I want to do next? I want to keep exploring this world. And so since Lamplight City was set in the mid-1800s, I thought, well, what's the natural extension of this world? Let me do the Old West. Nobody does Old West point and clicks. Nobody does Old West point and clicks that are not comedies when they do them. So I came up with the idea for Rosewater. And so Rosewater is, again, set in this sort of alternate steampunky kind of 19th century. No giant mechanical spiders. I want to get that out of the way.
Thank you.
First and foremost.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, so
stop the interview. Stop it altogether.
It's been done.
It's over now.
It's already been done.
I've lost interest.
It's been done to death. No, I get it.
Anyway, so yeah, Rosewater is a point and click game where you play as a former boxer turned writer named Harley Leger, who comes to the small town of Rosewater, and she gets assigned by the local paper to write about this guy that's in town. And the guy says, hey, I'm putting together a crew to go on a treasure hunt. Would you like to come with me? And she does, and then hijinks ensue. And so
hijinks.
Yeah.
That's where all good adventures start.
Yeah. The game is basically Harley and her posse traveling across the frontier, and you play as her, and you interact with your companions, and your relationships affect how the story goes, and so on and so forth. So that was a very long elevator ride, but
that's good, man. I work in Manhattan, man, so some of these elevators, they go up like 40, 50 floors.
That's true.
It was thrilling. I'm going to ask a long elevator ride question, you don't mind. It's
I
a very specific question
Okay.
regarding your demo, which I fell in love with, which is why
Oh,
we're here
excellent.
now. Said interview.
Excellent.
So early on, you're asked to steal a pocket watch for an asshole, essentially,
Lovable
in the
urchin.
game.
is what I-
Sure.
But sure.
And said watch is in a blacksmith's sort of a place of business, and there's a huge ass padlock on the blacksmith store.
Right.
So there's also a bag of lockpicks in the sheriff's establishment.
Of course there is. That's where lockpicks should be.
So I thought, okay, I can just go in there and take the lockpicks and just unlock the padlock and be on my way. But of course, you can't just steal the lockpicks underneath the sheriff's nose.
Of course not.
So I thought, okay, if I point to something in the background, like his rifles or a photo on the wall or the jail cell, he gets up from his desk and he walks over and gives you a whole spiel. Okay, cool. He's distracted. Can I take the lockpicks now? I can't. You might notice. So I came across this slab tile, which I can use to break the padlock and enter the blacksmith's
I see.
business.
Okay.
Now, had I not done that, could I use that slab tile to bash in the sheriff's head and then take the lockpicks from the bag? I'm just wondering if that's an option.
No. No,
Okay.
That would be the terrible violent solution. No, at the risk of spoiling things, which whatever, it's the demo. Yeah. So,
Right.
So one of the main things I wanted to do with this game was have multiple solutions available to the different puzzles. Not all of them, but most or some of them. So yeah, that puzzle about the puzzle you're referring to is kind of the main one in the demo, which is you're trying to get into this theater to watch the Wild West show, and said lovable urchin or asshole is blocking your way. So yeah, there's three ways to get in. You can either do the puzzly route, the more sneaky, more I guess adventure gamey puzzly route, which would involve getting the lockpicks. There's actually a medical bag in the doctor's office that you can pick up and swap.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
so
Indiana
then-
Jones style. Got it. All
Right. So if you do that, that's one way, and then you can like sneak your way in and get the watch. The more violent brute force solution is what you did, which is to smash the tile, but then that results in you getting caught by the person who lives in the blacksmith shop. Whereas if you had snuck in, you would have gotten away scot-free. And the third option, which is the ultra violent way, is just say, screw you, kid, and punch him and knock him out and just go in to the theater. And that bypasses the whole puzzle thing.
Oh, I want that option.
That's a good option.
We play that shit later. Yeah.
But that actually results in you getting thrown in jail, and then you meet the blacksmith occupant that way. And this sort of has an effect later on with regards to how the characters perceive you, because how you meet the occupant of the blacksmith shop, if she catches you in her trespassing in her place, she obviously is gonna like be wary of you from the get-go when you meet her later. If you meet her in jail and you sort of bond over like, what are you in for, like she has a slightly higher opinion. So yeah, it's stuff like that. It's branching narrative. Like the overall story is more or less the same, but how you get through to different places changes. So yes, there's actually also an extra satisfying fourth secret way of getting in, but I will leave that for you.
You gotta light the jail on fire.
Bashing. How?
It involves,
I mean, she's a former
smashing.
She's a former boxer. Can't you just punch her out of every single scenario or problem that comes her way?
Not everyone, but there are options to be more violent. Yeah, I'm allowing for a little bit of, I hesitate to call it role playing because it's not really role playing in the sense of like stats or anything, but like if you want to play her as more violent, you can, because it stands to reason that she would do that, but she's also like trying to get away from that side of herself. So if you do that, it might cause her like a crisis of identity and being like, oh man, I'm trying to be better, but I just can't stop punching people.
Punching people is very satisfying at certain times, so I could understand the frustration and the dichotomy there. So when you're creating these narratives, these paths, because you said the key word here is that like the overall story here is generally going to be the same. It's just how you get there.
Right.
How do you keep that from becoming a point of contention with gamers? Because you hear a lot of people that complain about, oh, my choices really don't matter because the story is always going to end up the same place. How do you resolve that? How do you in for lack of a better term, cheat it where it actually feels like it has weight to it?
Yeah, I think the key with that is that if you're going to say that the story changes, it's really easy to make it sound like it's a lot more involved than it actually is. Obviously, like, you know, you would have to have a team of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people trying to like account for every single possibility, not to mention all the assets you would need if the story radically changed. But I think the key is to make it feel like your choices actually matter. You have to see the payoffs in significant ways, whether it's like, I mean, I know that like the bare minimum is if dialogue changes, but if it's to the point where it's, you know, some action or some scene you see, like you see a completely different scene, or you see, I don't know, you get a completely different puzzle or something like that. I feel like that is a bit more meaningful with the choices, because yeah, I mean, like, I think the classic example is like, say, The Walking Dead from Telltale, where you had like, oh well, choose which character lives or dies, but it doesn't matter because in like 2 episodes down the way, the one you saved ends up dying anyway. That feels like more of a cheat. I understand why they did that, because obviously that would just expand the branches way too much if you didn't need that character anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I think as a solo indie dev, like, you can only do so much, and I think you need to like keep it within scope. But yeah, definitely just like making sure that the game acknowledges your choices and rewarding the player for them in some meaningful way. I think that's the trick, and not just beyond like one of the tricks that I always laugh at. Well, is when like a character is like, well, you did this and you did this, and they just regurgitate your choices back at you.
Yeah.
I think you need to hide it a little better, but I'm certainly no expert on this, so I'm just doing what I think feels right.
One of the games that I played recently that I actually finished was Biomutant, and Biomutant has a lot of different choices for you to take, because you can save the world very differently. You could be a jerk and, you know, wage warfare across all the tribes, whatever. But at the end of it, the narrator kind of goes, well, the adventurer did this, and then he did this, and then it led to that, and then everybody lived happily ever after the end. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, getting from point A to point B was kind of fun, but like seeing what point B was kind of like, well, that's all right. You're just going to narrate it. I'm not going to like see the consequences, the true consequences of the actions, just like these tiny little one-liners or whatever. But it seems like those moments in between point A and B, you put some more weight into them to try and hopefully make every action, not just the puzzles, but like the conversations, everything sort of has its own little weight to it. Is that right to assume?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've been having a lot of fun playing with too, especially with specific characters, is I have like a little internal counter that's kind of measuring your relationship levels, like on a scale of 1 to 10 with each character. And like, I'll have, what I like to do to just keep things fresh and make you feel like you're actually interacting is, if there's like a long conversation or a cutscene or something, I like to interrupt it and give you a choice on what to say. And some dialogue options will make characters like you more or not. And like, there's one character who, he has kind of a snarky sense of humor, but he has to warm up to you. So like, if you start making jokes at him, if you do it like when your relationship is too low, he's like, was that a joke? Whereas if you say the same joke and your relationship's higher, he's like, oh yeah, that's a good one. So little things like that. Yeah.
But does it matter from a gameplay perspective whether or not the characters like or dislike you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be like the goal here is that your companions, I want everybody to like your, like, I want as many people to like as many of the companions as possible. Obviously, I know that that's asking a lot because you're always going to have somebody who, like, the beloved, the character you think will be beloved is the one everyone hates or something like that.
Like
Um,
Andy v me. I get it.
you're both very charming.
Correct.
Um, but yeah, like as far as like the place where you're gonna actually see that is like act 2 of the game, the actual journey portion, because I've divided that up into like there's 3 main scenes that happen, but also along the way there's like little, I see a cat, there's little encounters.
2
There's
cats.
oh, nice. There's little encounters and like little mini stories and stuff, and there's companion specific ones, and there's two companion specific ones, or there's 2 encounters for each companion.
Okay.
You only get 1 per playthrough, and which one
Oh,
you get
okay.
will depend on factors such as your companion relationship, etc., etc. So yeah, there, and like the trajectory of Act 3, like what's available to you, depends on who's with you at that point, and who's with you also depends on the relationships. So yeah.
Nice.
How do you begin to even create this world and these characters? Do you look into people in your own life? Do you watch a lot of old movies? How does the world building and the character writing go from your
Well,
perspective?
I get my notepad.
Oh, props. We have
and,
props, folks.
and I start.
There it is. There
I
it
just
is.
start right. I made a little map of the town of Rosewater, even though you only see like 5 screens of it. Yeah, I just basically start writing things down and thinking about ideas and characters, and it's as far as influence goes, it's a mixture of lots of things. Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm writing a character and I'm trying to think about their personality, I might think about people I know who share those personality traits and what it's like to talk to them and things like that. I try to avoid making them exact copies of people I know, because I don't want people to play my game and be like, hey, that's me.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, but yeah, just a variety of different things. I read a couple of really good books geared at screenwriters by Robert McKee called Story and Dialogue, and he writes a lot about like thinking about how your characters interact with each other and how they are reflections of each other and things like that. So that's something I've been thinking a lot about too when writing. But yeah, as far as the creation process, it's kind of just like I try and come up with the setting first. This time was easy because I had already come up with the setting in a general sense for Lamplight City, you know, refining it more to this particular location and the Old West setting. And then just kind of thought about characters you see, how in that setting, like how to avoid the standard archetypes, how to subvert the standard like old prospector character that everyone expects, or
Right.
my signature, which is the shotgun granny. I was like, oh, I don't want to put any shotgun grannies. I have a penchant for including old ladies with heavy artillery in my games. I don't know why. It's just a thing I find funny.
I'm with you on that. That was that Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz had that scene, right?
I actually was just watching the Super Mario Brothers movie again for the first time since I saw it in the theater, and there's a shotgun granny in that, and I was like, I wonder if this influenced me all those years. But yeah, it's just kind of I come up with the world, and then I think about the characters, and then I think about the story beats, and yeah, it just kind of all gels that way. It's hard to answer because like when I'm doing it, and then afterwards it's kind of like I'm in a, it sounds really pretentious to say like, oh, I was in a fugue state, but like I literally like thinking back, I'm like, where did this come from? Like how is I can't like pinpoint. It's weird. I don't know. Anyway.
Nobody could really explain where creativity comes from.
Yeah.
Now you're a solo dev. We've interviewed dozens of solo devs at this point. But there's always a couple of shout outs that the solo devs like to give. Some people here and there that have helped, whether it's with music, art, whatever, animations. Is there any members that you want to loop in here and how those relationships started?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So my composer is Mark Bennis, who also did the music for Lamplight City. He did an amazing job on that. Mark is great. I worked with him for the first time on Lamplight City. I actually met him locally at like a games event a few years back, and he was just kind of like, hey, it just came up. I was like, hey, I'm making this detective game. I need a composer. Like, this is the kind of sound I'm looking for. He's like, oh, that sounds exactly what I'd love to do, and sort of blossomed from there. He was wearing Pokemon suspenders. It was great.
That's awesome.
And Jess Haskins, who is my writing partner and also partner, she was my script and dialogue editor on Lamplight City, and she's doing the same on Rosewater, but she is taking a bit more of an additional writer position on this as well. So yeah, that's basically the core team.
Wow. So you're doing all of the animation, drawing, programming, all that fun stuff?
Yep.
And you're alive. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've been doing this a while. How much longer I'll be
at what point do you realize that you are smart enough to make a point and click puzzle game?
If I was smart, I wouldn't be making point and click.
but seriously, I mean, like, going back to playing games like from my youth, like Monkey Island comes to mind almost immediately, and going through some of those games, puzzles, I'm like, who thought this up? Like, what human being with such higher brain function thought about these puzzles? And to know that they were able to do that.
Yeah.
So what was the point for you?
You're opening up a bit of a can of worms here, because there are several opinions on adventure game puzzles and types of adventure game puzzles.
Interesting.
You well know.
We should get into that.
So you bring up Monkey Island, and I was recently talking about how obviously I grew up playing all the classics. I played all the Monkey Island games. I love Curse of Monkey Island is my favorite. Fight me. I don't care.
Yes. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
But Secret of Monkey Island, I feel, has the best puzzles. And the reason that I feel Secret of Monkey Island has the best puzzles is because they're logical and they make sense in the world. Like, the most outlandish puzzle, I think that actually the only puzzle that I remember got me stumped was, there's a puzzle towards the end where you have to get a key to open up some room in LeChuck's ship. And the way you get the key is you use the magnetic compass to like levitate it down from the hook. That's a little out there. Yeah. But that's like the one puzzle. Everything else makes sense. Like even the rubber chicken with the pulley in the middle. Like, it's a pulley and you need it to like get across a cable. Okay, that works. Just because it's in a rubber chicken, whatever. But they make sense. And then like in Monkey Island 2, that's when it started getting a little bit more absurd with like the monkey wrench and the I don't know, I forget what other puzzles are in there. I just know that there's some pretty terrible puzzles in Monkey Island 2, one or two really bad ones. And then there's like, that's the point where it kind of got like, oh, it's a cartoony silly game, we're gonna have weird puzzles. So then you get into the whole thing of like moon logic and like, how was I supposed to figure that out? And as an adventure game designer, the golden, the thing you want, the aha moment, as they call it, is you want the player to be stumped by a puzzle, but not to the point where they're frustrated and they rage quit. You want them to be challenged and then feel smart when they figure out the solution by piecing together information or what have you. And as opposed to like looking up a walkthrough and being like, oh, how the hell was I supposed to figure that out? Right.
Yeah.
So when I design puzzles, I tend to err more on the side of realism. Like if you pick up a crowbar, it should be used for what a crowbar is used for, like prying something open, and not attaching it to a piece of dental floss and a candy cane to make a fishing rod to get something off the subway tracks. So unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people feel that that style of inventory puzzle, which is only one style of inventory puzzle because there's many other ways to use inventory, I feel like that has sort of become what people associate with adventure games. And so people think, oh, they're all stupid and they have these stupid things. So that you have like either they have to be insanely difficult with puzzles that nobody would ever figure out, or they're too easy and then they're not really adventure games. So you have this sort of like dueling faction between the hardcore fans and the not so hardcore fans. And I mean, just as far as like designing, my personal design philosophy is I like to think of puzzles in terms of obstacles. Like not, I don't think, okay, well, this door is going to be locked, so I have to design an elaborate door combination puzzle because that's a puzzle. I think, well, why is the door locked? Who locked it? Why did they, you know, what does me getting through this door tell me about the world or the characters or whatever? And so I think about puzzle chains as far as like realistic obstacles. Like to use the example of Rosewater, like you have to get into this show, but this kid that you've already met who you know is a con artist is there. So you have to deal with him more. And then you can choose whether you want to like go with his story or you just are done with him or whatever, and then figure stuff out like, you know, okay, so he's not letting you in. All right, I have to get this watch. Okay, well, I can't just get the watch. It's someplace I need to get. All right, well, there's a lock. How do I deal with the lock? Well, I can either do the lockpick thing, and then the next obstacle is I can't get it just from the sheriff, as we already talked about, or you can say, well, I'm just going to smash it, etc. So yeah, that's how I try and I don't think it's a question of like being smart. It's just a question of figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, it's trial and error, but you're also you're creating the puzzles within the context of the universe as opposed to as opposed to shoehorning the objects and puzzles into the universe. You know, one of my favorite genre right now is escape room games. I just think they're so much fun to just try and like figure things out. Yeah, and sometimes it's like, what? Other times you know you got your notepad and you're just keeping it, you know, oh, this could go here, this is the cipher for this. And those are fun, but those are also a very, very specific type of puzzle. And I feel like, you know, Rosewater is more like it's each little section is its own tiny little escape room, but the rooms are big, if that makes sense. It's like the room that you could play in is much larger, right? But it's a much smaller little piece of the puzzle that you have to kind of unlock to go forward in your little timeline. It also, like, adventure games a lot of the times are like choose your own adventure books, right? Where you're kind of just flipping through and like, okay, that character's basically ignored because I, you know, skipped him or whatever and stuff like that. But then you like kind of forget about those characters. I mean, you have to be writing for a lot of different personalities and characters and stuff. Maybe characters that you like fall in love with, you personally, that you wrote. And it must be weird knowing that some players might never even really get more than skin deep on some of these characters.
It also depends on the design. Like with Lamplight City, the whole thing there was that you could get things wrong and you could accuse the wrong suspects and you could close off leads if you were too much of a jerk to somebody, or you made them, you know, you did something to make them not cooperate with you, and that would lock off paths to like get to that particular suspect. So in that instance, yeah, it was possible to like not see a character or a location or something because you had made the mistake. I mean, overall, you never got like truly stuck. Like you never got into the dead end scenario where you were forced to reload. You just would declare the case unsolvable if you locked off all of your leads. But I'm not doing that so much with Rosewater because, I mean, it was an experiment in Lamplight City. I also didn't have inventory in Lamplight City for that very reason, because I figured in a detective game, it wouldn't make sense for a detective to be like using all of these items randomly. So it's not that I got pushback on that, but I think it was the problem with doing that and letting your players know that they're locking the content out is then they know and they get angry. So I've been trying to both limit that, and also partly one of the things with the relationship thing too is I'm also giving the player the option on who they want to get to know. So you could theoretically get to know all the characters, all the companions, I mean, and build a relationship with them. Or if there's someone you don't particularly like, you don't have to, deal with them. It's kind of like it's kind of like in Fallout New Vegas where you had like the companion specific quest paths.
Yeah.
And you could choose how much you wanted to get to know them. And I basically did that because of that issue where like, if you write the character and someone like if the game forces you to interact with them and the player doesn't really like them, it feels more like, look, I'm the author and I really want you to like this character. Please, why won't you like them? Whereas I prefer to give the player that choice of just deciding whether they like them or not. So, yeah.
Andy.
Yeah. I do want to say, like, what was the biggest thing you learned from developing Lamplight City to now making Rosewater? Having done point and click and now you're doing it again, what was the biggest takeaway from the previous experience?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is a really good question. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I with each game I do, I like to try something different and push myself in a different direction. I kind of feel like on the technical side, I've pushed myself with Rosewater because Lamplight City was 640 by 400 resolution in 2018. I know. And Rosewater is a whopping 720p. So I've pushed my art up to twice the resolution, and I've been learning how to like paint higher res, and I do all my animation by rotoscoping, so that's fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's translated pretty well to high resolution actually. So I'm doing like close up cutscenes and like emphasis for emphasizing actions and stuff, which adds a little bit more of a cool dynamic feel to it. So I guess art wise, that has been what I've learned, or what I learned from Lamplight City, to just like push myself and not cut corners. Design wise, I guess I would say that I sort of also learned how to keep things within scope. I mean, I try and keep things within scope as much as possible, but Lamplight City was my most ambitious project to date, and Rosewater is also ambitious, but I feel like I like early on when I was trying to figure out what the story was going to be about, I was like, okay, it's a Western. So do I want it to be like a treasure hunt? Do I want it to be a revenge story? Do I want it to be like, I don't know, I forget what the third one was. And I was like, oh, I can do all three and I can have you choose which path to go down at the end. But then I was like, that's way too much. I'm just going to do the treasure hunt. Let's just cut it back. So that I definitely have learned how to keep my projects realistic.
So we keep talking about Lamplight and we're talking about Rosewater, but you obviously have more experience than that. How'd you get started in game dev?
So when I was in college, actually, well, it goes way back before that. I played the classic adventures. I played King's Quest V on the NES. And for some reason, I thought, I want to do this. But I was never really able to find the software or really anything, because I have no programming experience. And I still, to this day, the only programming I've ever done has been within Adventure Game Studio, which is the engine I use. So when I was in college and I was farting around between classes, I just Googled Adventure Game Maker, and I found Adventure Game Studio, and I downloaded it, and I started messing around with it, and I made a couple little games, and then I thought, well, I want to make more games. So I came up with the idea to do a series of short games, and that series ended up being Ben Jordan, paranormal investigator, about
Ooh,
a paranormal investigator named Ben Jordan. Shockingly enough.
wow. You're really,
And I
really
made
dug
8 of
deep
those.
for that one.
Riveting.
Yeah.
Riveting.
I made 8 of those games over the course of 8 years, and they're free to download. They still are. And I kind of just learned as I went making them. And in 2014, I released my first commercial game, which was called The Golden Wake, which was it's a historical fiction game about a real estate agent in 1920s Miami. And then
I don't understand where you get these ideas from. Like,
I grew up in Miami, and I was really interested in the history of it, and I wanted to do I really liked Gabriel Knight and Broken Sword, like those games that blended historical fiction. And I thought that the backdrop of I read about, and I went to the museums and saw all the stuff that was going on during the 20s and the land boom, and I was like, this would make a really interesting and unique backdrop for an adventure game. Can I do something with this? And I came up with a story about it. And so I did that. And then in 2016, I made Shardlight, which is a post-apocalyptic story about a disease that's ravaging a country and the evil government that's hoarding vaccine. And it's really not a great game to play right now, but it came out in 2016.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sure you're on some sort of list for that.
Yeah, just call me Cassandra. And then I made Lamplight City in 2018, and now I'm doing Rosewater. So it started off as a hobby, and a friend of mine who also started off as a hobby and then got into publishing, Dave Gilbert, who started Wadget Eye Games, he told me that he would gladly publish me, and that's how I got my foot in the door.
That's awesome.
That's how I got started.
Very nice.
And I've never looked back. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to quit my day job and do this full time. So that's why I live in this. I live in this beautiful basement.
Yeah, can you?
I don't actually live in the basement. I only work here.
For those who are listening on the strictly audio format, can you describe where you are right now and your surroundings?
I am in my basement in my beautiful Brooklyn townhouse. And it is underground, and there's stone walls and stone arches, and I have decorated it in a mix of like a pirate cove / man cave / nerd outfit, because this is where I keep all my big box PC games.
There's a lot of wood.
There's a lot more stone than wood.
I mean, it's hard to tell. Oh, I see. That's like a little divider. I see.
There's just a couple of dividers, so you don't see all of the actual terrible basement crap back there.
Right. Yeah, you got some pirate flags. I saw. Yeah. I might have seen some mead, perhaps a drunkard strewn about a couch. I think earlier.
I don't have any mead. I've got my little Madman liquor cart down here, but I don't have running water down here, so I don't actually drink. I just kind of store the wine stuff down here.
That's fair. So you're in Brooklyn, huh?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What part?
I'm in Diker.
Okay, I'm in Bed-Stuy.
Bed-Stuy? Keep getting alerts about Bed-Stuy.
Shout out to everybody
People
who
gotta chill out over there.
Oh, it's fine.
Andy's in Queens.
Good old Queens.
Roll Brooklyn homies.
I didn't realize we were all in the same space.
I know.
Oh, man.
I think it's like also one of our first point and click, and we don't ever talk to devs from New York.
What?
Yeah, it's very
I feel
rare.
almost ever.
There's so
on
many.
this show.
We've got.
I know.
We've gotten a few. Yeah, we've gotten a few.
Have you been to
We've spoken to more
Yes,
developers
we
in
have.
Romania than we have in New York City.
That's true. It's true. So tell us about the scene now in New York, because it has been growing quite a bit over the last 4 years, I want to say.
Yeah, but that's a hard question to answer because I haven't been to any events in like 2 years.
Right. Well, yeah, yeah. It's just like the kind of the communication, in a lot of other places, especially in like towns in Canada, different provinces in Canada. You got your Maryland groups. You have your Pacific Northwest, obviously. You have your Texas groups, and like they're all pretty tight knit. Like almost everyone knows everyone in those little communities. Do you have that kind of feeling here in New York yet? Has it gotten to that point?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been here 8 years now, and I feel like I've I mean, most of my friends are through the people I've met through like game dev stuff.
Mm.
The indie dev scene in New York is interesting because it is very tight knit. It's also very splintered. Like there's a lot of pockets. Like you have the people associated with like play crafting, for example, the people
right.
play NYC. You have like there's a bunch of people who rent space in Dumbo that call themselves Gumbo, and they like have a shared office space. And it's just a bunch of different devs. They don't all work like on the same projects, but they all just have like an indie dev co-op thing. Yeah, it's like there's different groups, and sometimes there's some overlap, but then sometimes there's not. So it's really weird. Like I'll be talking to people and being like, oh yeah, so and so, and they're like, who? I'm like, oh, you don't know so and so? That's weird. Or it's like, oh, I didn't know you knew. Yeah, it's but as far as it's definitely been growing. I mean, I got here at a time where it felt like a lot of the bigger studios were shutting down and moving out of New York. Like Arcadium. Wait, is Arcadium still around? I don't even know. I don't know. Anyway,
there was a while there where THQ, when THQ was still around, they had Chaos Studios. Right. And that was like, it was them and Rockstar, but Rockstar's studio here is all for, it's like their legal department, but also like some PR and like very little actual development happening. But like that's all you knew. That's all we knew about in New York. And you know, and I know when THQ went under, Chaos went under, that team kind of got scattered all about, and there's really no place for them to go. They all had to move.
Yeah, I think Avalanche is the only AAA left.
Yep.
And a few people, mostly the audio department of Avalanche is who I know. They're the ones that sort of seem to come out to all the events and stuff. But yeah, like that's another group, like the game audio people. Like I would go to their meetups all the time too. But yeah, there's also the IGDA. My girlfriend was the co-chair of the IGDA for a really long time, so I got to see a bunch of IGDA events and stuff. And yeah, there's also like the New York Indie Games monthly social, which we haven't obviously done in a while. But yeah. So yeah, I'd say that the scene here is, I mean, it's partly the reason I moved here was because there was a game dev scene. There wasn't one in South Florida. So I don't think there is still. But yeah, it's been cool. And yeah, of course you have like the NYU Game Center scene also.
That's super important is getting the colleges to start really getting people excited about the industry, because I mean, you can't hide the success of the gaming industry anymore. Like it outdrew every other entertainment medium combined, you know? And I think it's really hard to ignore at this point. Like even the big fat cats with the cigars, like they're starting to pay attention, you know? So
I like how you said fat cats just as your cat jumped up on the sofa behind you.
He is a floof. He's a
that
big
was good
floof.
timing.
He is very floofy. All right, Andy.
Is it time?
It's time.
Oh boy.
I'm glad he's taking a drink because it's about to get thirsty in here.
I love this part.
It's about. But yes, it is time for everybody's favorite segment. It's time for rapid fire.
Oh yeah.
But before we do, if you guys like us, you like what we do here, think about supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/NDS podcast. We want to thank our Patreon producers, Colton the Apprentice Nestler, Vegas Girl on Fire, and FNH Paul. We can't continue to grow without all of your support, so please head over there if you want to support us. Just $1 gets you into our super secret, top secret, double probation VIP Discord, where you can hang out with us and talk video games all the damn time. And we also have like devs in there too that you could chat with a little bit. Fun stuff. You get to like help us shape the show. It's really cool. And also head over to twitch.tv/dualscreenstreams, where we do crossplay podcast every week. All right. It's now time for rapid fire. It's this is where we're going to really get to know you. We're going to get underneath what makes you you.
The deep dive.
You understand? It's a deep dive.
I hope so. All right.
Okay. First, we're going to get to know your perception. Okay? Between Andy and Steven, who got arrested and for what?
I'm gonna say Steven got arrested for public urination.
Mm.
Oh, you're getting me on a list now. Thanks. Thanks for that.
I mean, I thought he would say me for, using a stone slab to beat someone to death, but hey.
I hope you only keep that within game.
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
It's contextual. Do you fight like a cow?
Wait, I don't get the answer?
No. We're getting to know you.
Yeah. We want to tell you.
Okay.
We just want to know what you
We're
think.
asking the questions here, sir.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. All right. Fair. I see how this is going to work. Do I fight like a cow?
Yes.
No, I fight like a dairy farmer.
That is the only answer to that question.
It is. It is. You are playing the card game Uno. It is between you, your SO, and Grandma.
How did I know Grandma was going to be in this?
And she's packing heat.
Grandma is after you.
Grandma's the last person.
Are you going to draw 4, Grandma?
Am I going to what? Sorry.
Are you going to draw 4 on Grandma? Are you going to play that card? Or are you going to try?
I honestly haven't played Uno in such a long time. I don't remember how it works. So I'm going to say yes.
Oh, Grandma's getting 4 more cards. Suck it, Grandma. You suck. Ha.
But knowing Grandma, she likely has another draw for her.
But the question is she going to pull out a shotgun and turn the table?
Probably. Well,
more than
it's your
likely.
Grandma.
That's true. Well, if she pulled out a shotgun, I'd be very impressed. She's no longer with us.
Neither's mine. Which what? Grandmas unite.
Yeah.
Aside from slapping your granny with 4 cards in Uno, what is something you have done that should have gotten you killed?
That should have gotten me killed?
Yes.
I slipped and almost fell into the Irish Sea. Very recently.
Very recently.
It was the last trip I took in 2019. I was in Ireland and we were walking on a very wet and rainy day on cold next to the ocean, and I was like, oh, some stairs that go down into the sea. Let me check those out. And I was walking with my umbrella and my hand in my coat pocket, and I went whoop, and it was only by like luck that I somehow like braced my fall and didn't just go straight into the ocean. And it was like rough water and deep water, and there was no way of getting out. So that should have gotten me killed, but thankfully it didn't.
Yes, thankfully indeed.
You almost want that to be true for the alumni newsletter. I'd
like to go out in a bit more fantastic way.
He died at sea. Oh, was he? Did he get a Viking funeral? No, we don't. No. He slipped on some stairs.
Yeah.
And he's gone. Yeah. Rest in peace, Francisco. Now, here's a very similar question. What is the dumbest way you've injured yourself?
I have photo evidence to back this up because I was just showing this to someone yesterday. I went ice skating in Florida for the very first time at the ripe old age of 20. How old was I in 2009? 27, which is the magic number. So that probably should have gotten me killed too.
Yep.
I went ice skating and I lost my balance and I fell forward and I put my hands out, as you do. It doesn't work on ice.
No.
And I fell forward and smacked my face, and it looked like I had been. It looked like I was a hockey player who had just gotten into
steady diet of rocks.
I
played some hockey.
I cut myself right here on the temple, and
no,
the head bleeds a lot.
Yes, it does.
It really, truly does.
So, hang on.
He's looking for photos.
Oh
this is
God!
For all of your viewers.
No.
Yeah, that was a pretty dumb way to injure myself.
Man, I gotta be honest though, that's a handsome picture. That should be your headshot.
Yeah.
That was my profile, my Facebook profile.
That's definitely a headshot, right? You looked so disappointed though. You're like, oh man, look what I did.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, you're up.
Speaking of dumb ways to injure yourself, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
I've never tried it, but I'm gonna say no.
Mm.
Although I have had pineapple with prosciutto, and that's actually really good.
Wow, you are really from Florida, aren't you?
Did you,
I had it on Staten Island.
Prosciutto.
yeah, I was gonna say,
prosciutto.
is that how they pronounce it in Staten Island?
No, prosciutto. Okay, I had it with some gabagool and some
Gabagool.
mozzarella. Sorry.
Suprasad, Gabagol, prosciutto. It's very simple. A baby can do it.
Thank you. I'll keep that in mind for future reference. I've only been here 8 years. It's 10 years
Only.
I'm a New Yorker, right?
No, I think isn't it 6
Or is it
or
I don't
7?
know. Everybody has a different number.
I think 6 or 7 is my threshold for being a New Yorker.
Okay.
You have
So
to
you're
you
there.
have to you have to scream it at tourists. The moment you just lose your fucking mind at tourists for just like stopping dead in their tracks in front of you, or like going through the wrong door, or standing still on an escalator.
I did that within 2 weeks of living here on the Brooklyn Bridge when I was trying to walk across it. I was like, get the fuck out of my way.
All right.
That's
Okay. See,
I adapted quickly.
it was happening. It was happening for you.
Anyway.
All right. Let's see. What else can we do? Okay. Would you rather explore a brand new planet in a faraway galaxy or faraway solar system, whatever? There's no threat of you getting there. You get there and you can explore and you'll live. Mm-hmm. Or would you rather explore the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean on Earth?
Definitely the ocean.
What is a Grundislav?
According to my 11th grade history teacher, Grundislav was the ancient Germanic form of González. I have since looked it up, and it's actually Gundisalv. But apparently that means war elf, and I don't know how to feel about that. But I feel like Grundislav rolls off the tongue better than Gundisalv. Anyway, so yeah, my friends started calling me Grundislav, and then when I went online, I decided to use that as my nickname, and I wasn't creative enough to come up with anything else.
I like it. And that coincidentally, I feel should be the name of that bloody picture. That could totally
elf?
be the war elf.
It is Grundislav colorized.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
All right. You get up. You're about to start your day. You're getting dressed. Is it sock, shoe, or sock, shoe?
Sock, shoe.
Yes. That is the only way. You could add him to the not sociopath list, Andy.
I also put on my socks before I put on my pants.
That's acceptable.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally fine. What is something you think people notice the most about you?
Oh, God, I don't know. I have no idea. What do people notice the most about me?
Besides your pirate den.
Only a select few are invited here.
Oh my.
And it is in New York, Steven, so you have to get a special VIP invitation.
I mean, if you know how they have those, you must be this tall to enter. The ceiling here is very low, so if you're taller,
I'm 5'7", baby. Let's go.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm 5'6" and I get by, but I can't. If I lift my arms, I touch the ceiling. So.
I'm 6 feet. I'm doomed.
Yeah, you are. God, what is something people notice about me? I don't know. God, pass.
You're okay. Okay. Is cereal a soup?
No.
Okay.
Would you rather have edible spaghetti hair that regrows every single night, or sweat maple syrup?
Edible spaghetti hair. I was out yesterday in 97-degree weather and sweating like a dog, and if that was maple syrup, that would be even more unpleasant.
That would be horrendous.
It would be horrible.
Yeah. Time travel or teleportation?
Teleportation.
Flight or invisibility?
Flight or invisibility? I mean, if I could teleport, I wouldn't need to fly. So let's do invisibility.
There it is.
Okay. Well, we could keep this going. Super speed or super strength?
Super speed just means I run fast, right?
You can do everything fast.
Do everything fast.
You could do everything you want to do very
typing,
fast.
the clicking, the house chores, the cooking.
I guess, yeah, okay, super speed then.
To be able to lie perfectly, or you must always tell the truth.
I mean, I always tell the truth all the time, so lie perfectly.
There it is.
I like that. I like that. What color, and I'm making an assumption here, what color are your Dungeons and Dragons dice?
I don't own any, I'm sorry.
You, what kind of nerd are you?
I've got, look, I'll show you.
He lives on a pirate ship. That's enough already, Steven.
I have painted minis of all of my adventure game protagonists.
See, there you go.
See,
those are gorgeous.
Your camera just turned off. Well, your camera went off.
Oh no, yeah, it does that because I stomped.
You got so angry at the fact that I didn't have.
Yeah, it doesn't play D&D.
Yeah, I do play Shadowrun if that's any consolation.
Shadowrun's dope.
Yeah. My character in that is a 9-foot-tall Sasquatch who wears a Hawaiian shirt named Preston Unger, who went to Dartmouth and hates the poor.
I think we found your next game premise.
Those are a lot of words you just said.
I've never heard it.
Andy, give your final question, then I'll ask the ceremonial.
Sure. Would you rather be a reverse centaur or a reverse merman?
Ooh. Reverse centaur.
Yeah.
Go with that live action.
That would be really weird. Every time you ask that, I try and look at it. I'm like, no, none of this looks fun.
Especially because my girlfriend's from Saratoga Springs.
Oh boy.
Oh lordy, we have fun. We have fun.
And now, Francisco, this is the one that's going to get the deepest and darkest into your psyche.
Okay.
All right. This is the one where we're really going to get to know you, and it's honestly not just the most difficult question you're going to answer on this podcast or any podcast. It's also the easiest. It is an oxymoronic question. Or just moronic. Either way, we're going to let you judge. But it is incredibly insightful and deep. And I've stalled enough.
You have.
Here we go. Andy or Steve?
In general?
However you want to interpret it.
Yeah. For the gulag.
There's a long list. There's a list of guests that have answered this question. We just got to know what column we're putting your name in.
Both.
Okay.
The very elusive both column, which we for a while we didn't allow, but
right. I think we should though.
Yeah, a special both. There's a very long neither column. That is very long at this point. But I appreciate.
I think we've once had all right, goodbye guys. See you later.
Yeah, we've had that as well. Yes, we did.
I have to say, I'm glad that the question. I was on a podcast once where they asked me if I crumpled or folded the toilet paper. So I'm glad you didn't ask that.
That's gonna go on the list for next time. I kind of like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You really want to know that about people, though?
I mean, I have a bidet. Now you know that.
Ooh.
I mean, I've asked people if they would eat a dick flavored cake or a cake flavored dick. So when it comes to toilet paper crumpling, it doesn't matter. On that note, Francisco,
where can everybody find you and find Rosewater and all of that stuff?
I just want to say a dick flavored cake would be an excellent inventory item for an adventure game. So file that one away. You can find me many places. You can find me on Twitter. I am at Grundislav Games. That's GRUNDISLAV Games, all one word. You can go to my website, grundislavgames.com. If you search for it on Google, it will tell you won a prize. ignore that and just go to grundislavgames.com. I've been having issues with malware. It's driving me crazy. But all my games are on Steam. A Golden Wake, Shardlight, Lamplight City, and Rosewater. You can wish list it on Steam. They're also on GOG.com if you prefer the DRM free option. You can join my Discord. You can find the link on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Grundislav. I do a weekly stream where I develop the game called Wild West Wednesdays. That's every Wednesday
awesome.
at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Love that.
What else? I have a newsletter as well, which I send out once a month. You can subscribe at tinyletter.com/Grundislav. I think that's everything, right? Discord, Twitch, newsletter, Steam, website.
You're not on the TikTok? You're not a TikToker?
I am not a TikToker. I'm too old for TikTok.
I understand. I understand.
Yep.
I tried a TikTok. I have 2 TikToks. I think they're called TikToks. Okay. I made a tick or a talk. I possibly have made a TikTok. I don't know. I'm not sure. Folks, if you want to follow me on social media, I am at Batchild27 on the old Twitter machine. You could also find me on Twitch. I'm at Batchild. Andy is at PantsGuy. And you can follow us twitch.tv/dual screens streams. And of course, if you want to support us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/NDS podcast. Thanks again. Andy, is there anything you want to tell the kids before we say our final goodbyes?
Always eat a dick flavored cake.
I feel like it's the
always.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the most nutritious out of the 2 options.
Seriously,
it has some sort of caloric value at least, which I suppose is helpful if your choices are a cake flavored dick or a dick flavored cake. So I guess this is what you're here for, folks. Yeah. We said that sentence after asking you for money, so
so it's obvious why you should be giving us.
Yes, super obvious.
Cash. Yeah.
Anyway, good Lord. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers. Keep on gaming, and as always, please be excellent to each other.